Welcome to On Your Own Terms. I'm Patty Talbot, and this is the place where we learn together what it takes to change the world in our own special way and on our own terms. Today, I'm so honored to have with me my friend Tammy Ulrich, who has an amazing background in Montessori education and child development and understands just what it takes to nurture the change-making capacity in children, as well as in the adults whose job it is to help them grow up and feel their full capacity and potential as human beings. She has a beautiful way of telling us about this story, and I'm honored today to have her agree to tell her story using the Blue Roads education framework, Homegrown Solutions for the Patchwork World. So you're going to hear her story as a homegrown person growing up to be a change maker herself. You're going to hear about the issues that mean the most to her and her work to create solutions around those issues. You're going to hear about her work across the patchwork, and you're going to hear about her work to help her important messages for parents and teachers so that they can have the skills they need to raise healthy children who also have the capacity to bring peace and positive change into our world. Welcome, Tammy. I look forward to hearing your homegrown solutions for a patchwork world.
Well, my foundation kind of from my career in early childhood has always been Montessori. And I actually grew up a Montessori child. My dad was a Unity minister as well as an educator and was charged with heading up the Wee Wisdom School at Unity Village. It was one of the very first Montessori schools in the resurgence of Montessori in the United States. So he worked with a woman named Margaret Potts and also trained teachers. And then I was part of that school that he was heading up and got to have that early experience as a Montessori child. Then I fell into it again as an adult when I started taking courses in college, and it kind of was there and was just right. And that got me going in that direction as an adult. So I also grew up in New Thought with Dad being a Unity minister. That's part of the New Thought churches or spiritual centers. It kind of goes along with the law of attraction, which I think has become quite well known, with the whole idea that your thoughts create your reality. And if we're thinking positive thoughts, then we're creating a more positive way of being. So change your mind, change your life. Montessori and New Thought kind of all fit together with creating just this idea of a person being who they truly are, and then being able to be who you truly are and give your gift in the world. So that kind of laid that change maker foundation. Another piece to that really is that Montessori is all about creating independence. It's really more of a functional independence. And we use those skills that we each have as individuals to then become interdependent when we give those out into the world and make the world a better place. Montessori is all about making the world a better place by how we raise children to create a peaceful world. So I've wanted to work with kids as long as I can remember, except for maybe a short time when I thought I would be a ballerina. But, really that's kind of my origins of who I am. I've just always really cared about kids and wanted to work with children. Well, what's really important to me above everything else is that all children are able to grow up nurtured and educated in a manner that allows them to be their true selves and to really develop to their innate potential and to give their gift. I mean, we all have a gift that we're here to give. So that means that their needs need to be met on all levels, physical, social, emotional, cognitive, spiritual, and that they're in positive, enriching, loving environments, that they're loved unconditionally, that they're empowered to be able to think for themselves, to problem solve, develop a growth mindset, grit. As cliche as it sounds, kids are our future. How we nurture our kids today makes a difference in what we're going to see tomorrow. So again, it goes back to creating a positive, peaceful world. So one of the things that I really love to see is how, as children learn how to take care of things in the environment, how that then translates into how they take care of each other. And they're able to choose whatever activities they want to based on their ability. Mm-hmm. And having had a lesson and so forth. And generally you see it's a mixed age classroom. You start with 2.5 to 3s, the youngest. They've got these older kids to look up to kind of see how things work. And then they're kind of in the middle where they start to welcome the younger ones and get to be models for the younger ones, but they still have the older ones that they look up to and that are kind of drawing them along. And then finally have the oldest, and they're the leaders. They really start to then feel a sense of confidence in who they are. So I love to see that cycle of how the children grow. And what's really fun is because of their varying levels of development, sometimes it'll be the other way around. Like little tiny children at about age 3 have a really strong sense of order and they like things just so. Around 4.5 or 5, that starts to change. So 5-year-olds will get a little bit sloppier at returning their things to the shelf or whatever. And I love to see a little 3-year-old, you didn't put that away, right? And kind of redirect them. So they get to a place where it's about the kid. The teachers, the guide, we call them guides, kind of set the foundation, but it really evolves so that the children are in charge, so to speak. Another thing that's really beautiful to watch is, we have an area in Montessori called Practical Life, learning how to take care of things in real life. So there may be big water things because they're scrubbing, or they may be just transferring grains or something in pouring or spooning. There's always messes. There's always an accident happening. And it is so amazing to watch a big spill happen and have 3 or 4 other kids leave what they're doing and come over and help the one who spilled clean everything up. And it's spontaneous. It develops into just this way that the classroom works, with everybody kind of being there for each other. I love to see an older child go and help a little one that's feeling sad, put their arm around each other and just kind of support them. It's really fun to watch the interaction of the kids and how that development of taking care of each other and comes about. We need to meet children exactly where they are. Well, it's the same with parents and families. We need to meet them where they are. And we all have different skill sets. We all have had our own different upbringing that has laid the foundation for who we are as parents. It's just important to meet each parent and each family right where they are with love and acceptance. As an early childhood educator, it's also critical to be culturally competent and to continue to become aware of our own implicit biases and work for inclusivity. And that's a process. We have to listen. We need to be really conscious of our own ethnocentrism as we encounter others. It's always been very important to me to incorporate other cultures and people with children, learning about the different people in the world, acknowledging, accepting our similarities and differences, representing diversity in the classroom. And really that's part of the Montessori curriculum, but it's also a really crucial aspect for me that I've always really focused strongly on peace education, which diversity is part of that peace education, incorporating that and really helping children to see the spectrum of people in our world. And so when we're working with parents and families, it's that same approach. It's that same feeling of accepting that diversity. I always thought that I was right there in the last few years, really seeing that I'm definitely, like many of us, been in this little privileged bubble and not having a good concept of really the racism in our country that is so prevalent. And so I have come to a place in the last few years of just realizing, even though I was doing all these things, there's still always so much more to learn, and how much I did not realize. With that, this knowing and understanding that we have to keep learning. We have to keep being really open-minded, really accepting, and seeing people where they are and what their experiences are. It's easy in our own little bubbles to not realize that everybody else doesn't have that same experience or those same opportunities that we do. That's a piece of it too, is just making sure to work for inclusivity and acceptance and understanding of all people. When I think about peace education, there's a lot of peace education curriculums out there, but it is so much more than just teaching canned curriculum of this is how we talk to each other, or this is diversity, and this is all the different ways that people look, or even doing art projects. It's really a matter of living it on a day-to-day basis with children. And all of those activities and things, play a definite role in it. I believe, though, that it needs to be a part of every day and every conversation and encounter that's there. Not that we're being right out there blatant with it, but that it's just this undertone of how we are with each other and the children, talking about and encouraging respect of each other. It's not just adults expect children to respect them. Adults need to respect children. It goes both ways because we're modeling that respect when we respect them. And then that way they can learn how to give that back. Acceptance of how each person is, what their likes are. We're all in whatever place we're at, and we accept each other right there. Having an understanding of people around the world, cultures, celebrations, incorporating all those, particularly in talking about it in the classroom in regard to the children that are present, making sure they feel represented. But honestly, in most of my classrooms, we had very little diversity. And so I actually feel like it was even more important to provide examples of the various people and cultures around the world, because one of the big pieces of peace education is teaching communication, teaching conflict resolution. So we would have either a peace table, or there's often a peace rose or a peace rug. And the children, it's fantastic to watch. The children learn to go and set up, go to the peace table or go get the peace rose and talk about, well, I didn't like it when you did this, and work through whatever situation. At first it takes adult mediation, but what is unreal is watching 4-year-olds do this without any adult intervention at all, that they can do it on their own. I once had a little girl, a couple of kids in the classroom were in a conflict, and the little girl went and got the peace rose and brought it over to them and said, "You guys need this." So it's really cool to see how that evolves so that kids know they're safe in the classroom, not just from a physical perspective, but that everybody's taking care of each other. That's one of the real beauties in Montessori education, is seeing that interconnectedness of how we all work together to take care of each other in our classroom. And we can take that out into the world so that we learn to take care of each other. So that's kind of peace education, is how we set up, basically how we take care of each other. What I really want to see happen in the world is for parents and educators to find a better way to nurture and educate our kids. We're kind of going on past ways of both parenting and educating that we actually know don't really work as well as they could. We have so much more information on brain development and how children really learn best. We know a lot more about nurturing children. We've had these crazy ideas that we shouldn't touch children, that, we need to let them cry it out, toughen them up. And we know that a lot of that isn't ideal. So my hope is that through the work that I do, it can start to get that message out there of that there's a better way. We have this feeling that, well, I turned out okay, but we really want better than okay for our kids. We want them to really be who they can be. We used to think that putting a baby, that we were supposed to put them on their tummies. And then we learned that back is best. And we have reduced the instances of SIDS. We used to think that it was great to have all these cute things in the crib, bumper pads and blankets and pillows. And now we know that's really not safe. So as we learn more and we know more, we do differently, we change. That's where we are, is we need to change some of the ways that we've done things. We now know there are better ways. And so we can nurture and guide children in a more positive manner. So that's what I want to do, is help parents and educators, empower them, and first, to trust our own inner guidance. I think, when we're with kids, we kind of feel what it is that they need. Follow the child. They're going to show us. The company that I have is Educating the Essence. I really believe that we come in with this inner essence that guides us. And when we as adults get out of the way and just allow that to happen in children, and we follow that, kids come in programmed to become who they're supposed to be. So we need to work with that. We work with that inner essence that they have and basically educate that essence. We're not really educating it, we're allowing it, because it already has everything that it needs. We provide the environment, we provide the love and the support and the guidance, and then it just happens. In a speech at the London Montessori Training College, Gandhi said, if we're to teach real peace in the world, we have to begin with the children. And Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. So both of those, that's what it is for me, that we need to start with the children. We need to provide for their needs and unfoldment, and it'll change the world. we'll have a much happier, better world. So my bottom line goal is to educate and support parents and teachers in helping little ones become who they are and in the process create a more peaceful world. I've been working in early childhood over 35 years. I founded and headed a Montessori preschool for 24 years. I've stayed involved in the Montessori community. I'm still currently on the Oregon Montessori Association board, but I've also been a president and executive director. I've been a Montessori Accreditation Council team verifier for Montessori training centers, as well as an instructor and field consultant. Currently, I'm teaching early childhood courses at a local college, as well as acting as the dual liaison between the college and high schools that are taking early childhood classes. So students are able to take college level classes while they're still in high school, and then that supports them in coming then into the degree program when they come into the college. I am currently working on workshops for both educators and parents, as well as doing parent coaching. And all that information is on my website. I love to work with parents to just help them smooth out, some of the difficulties. Kids, there's the whole saying, kids don't come with a manual. Sometimes we're too close to the forest to see the trees. And it's just helps to have somebody help clarify what it is that you really want to draw forth in your family and how can you get there. Sometimes it means providing some additional information and skill set and so forth. And sometimes it's just a matter of taking a breath and stepping aside. And then you see, oh, this is what they're doing. This is why they're behaving that way. I love to decipher the communication of behavior. Children's behavior is communication. It's telling us what's going on for them. And sometimes, it's a code that you have to you have to figure out. But it is communication, and it is how we meet their needs, is to figure out what's going on for them. Kids aren't just naughty just to be naughty. There's something going on. And so I really do love to figure out what's going on for them and help smooth the way a little bit for both child and the parents. Well, one of the ways that I hope to make a difference is through a book I'm working on called The Parenting Mindset. And it really goes into rethinking how we parent. So it's, looking at some of the past ways that we have parented and educated children, and what can we do and how can we make that better. But it includes, just understanding who the child is. And like I was saying before about behaviors being communication, what that looks like. But it also talks about getting yourself ready as a parent to change kind of in your mind how you think about children and how you think about what that means, to becoming more of a guide and a nurturer rather than thinking we have to fill our children up with knowledge. We have to fill them up with all the things we want them to be, but rather to draw that out from them. That idea again of educating the essence, that we're finding that essence within them and following that. But we're also talking about what kids need, how they need connection, how we can use positive communication, how they learn, brain development, all those pieces, how we can create a mindset to better guide through those difficult times when we need discipline and so forth. So just kind of talks about changing our whole idea about what it means to be a parent and to parent our children in a much more guiding and positive manner.
Thank you so much, Tammy. You, again, as always, have inspired me and moved me to be thinking about the children in my life and how I can help to nurture within them their essence and their capacity to be all that they can be and to find their one true purpose in life. As I was listening to you, I was thinking of the many times in our changemaker circles when you gave me specific advice on my own little ones, my grandchildren that I love. And I remember particularly one day when I was in a conundrum because I could not think of how to get my 3-year-old granddaughter to allow me to comb her hair. She would scream and cry. And some adults in her life wanted me to bribe her with candy, and I just didn't feel good about that alternative. And I remember that you said, what if you give her a mirror so that she can look at herself and enjoy the process, and be sure to make it a very nurturing, supported kind of process and turn it into something that she could actually enjoy including looking at herself and learning to comb her own hair. So that's just one little example from my own life in how you have advised me about how to do something that brings out the essence of a child without making them feel like something that should be a part of a daily routine, like combing hair, could be something that was actually a celebration of togetherness. So I, for one, really appreciate your expertise in that way. Tammy's story today about peace building in the classroom and peace education made me think of something interesting that's happening in my community right now that's really got me thinking. Our high school lacrosse team has been wearing t-shirts with the words "Pray for Peace" in yellow and blue on the front for their warm-up t-shirts. These are t-shirts that their teacher, their coach, bought for them, and they were wearing them with great joy in support of what brothers and sisters in Ukraine. So they were wearing a shirt that read, "Pray for Peace." Well, my school division decided to take exception to those t-shirts for several reasons. The leadership was concerned about the word pray in "Pray for Peace" because it is important in our Constitution that we honor the separation of church and state, right? So the word pray may point people to think that that's a religious message. So that's one argument against wearing those t-shirts. So that might be a legitimate argument. So some of the students decided, all right, we won't wear "Pray for Peace." We're going to change the t-shirt and we're going to make the words "Play for Peace." Play for peace, taking any idea that there's a conflict with religion out of the issue. In fact, after doing so, the leadership in the school division still decided to disallow the t-shirts for two reasons. One, saying that the opposite of peace is war, and war is a political issue. And therefore, these t-shirts are promoting a political agenda. That was the argument. Now, I'm raising this not because I have the answer, but because I think it will make rich conversation for us afterwards. And I also want to tell you a couple of other little details as we get ready to discuss, because I just read about this again in the newspaper this morning. A couple of the other details are these. The teacher provided the t-shirts. So the argument is made that this is not a free speech issue. If the students had bought the t-shirts themselves and opted to wear them, then it becomes a free speech issue. But because the teacher purchased them, they were not. The other bit of information that might be interesting for you is to know that a local t-shirt shop started selling these t-shirts to benefit Ukraine and the peace effort in Ukraine. So even though it's not allowed through the public schools any longer, that t-shirt effort is actually making what I would consider a positive change by allowing funds to be raised for peace. But it's been something that's really been sticking in my craw because I was a school administrator. And of course, we know we do have to be careful about political issues in schools for good reason. And we have to be careful of bringing religion, or particularly taking a religious perspective that might promote one religion over another in our school environment. So I've been really chewing on this issue for myself, and I'll talk with the people that come for Changemaker Circle after the show today about my own conundrum, because I don't necessarily think of peace as political. I think of peace as the way of being for all human beings, kind of a universally accepted truth. It's true that we all must eat. It's true that certain human rights deserve to be respected. To me, peace is a universal human value. So I'm not buying into that argument about peace being a political effort. What's most important for today's conversation that I think relates to what Tammy has taught us is, number one, that children can guide us. Children can lead the way. And in this case, these children are teenage children, but they're trying to raise something that's important to them and being allowed to work through it, even if they don't win within the school division, finding a way that they can be change makers in the world by leading the way is a great example of change makers at work. And the adults who are nurturing them and supporting them in finding a way to have their voices heard and to create something positive that they believe in, I believe that is nurturing the essence of the young person by allowing them to follow their lead. And then there's this issue of peace education. To me, a non-political idea, but the leadership in my local school division is thinking about that a little bit differently. So in the spirit of change makers who can indeed communicate across difference and even differences of opinion, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's happening in our school division with a group of young people who are trying to be change makers while still following the rules of democratic society, where all opinions should be welcomed. We should be able to have vigorous, dynamic conversation from different points of view. And at the same time, we should be able to stand up and speak loudly and proclaim our dismay, our disapproval, our absolute boundaries around anything where human beings are being downtrodden. I know that our audience can easily see how the work that Tammy is doing to educate the essence of children can and does and will have a positive effect and increase the possibility of our children growing up to be peace builders and change makers. If you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, can you see how Tammy is supporting goal number 4, quality education, but also health and well-being? Also, did you hear her talk about peace and justice and inclusion? All of this work helps to reduce inequalities, increase equity, and supports not only goal number 4 and all the goals related to equity and inequality, but also goal number 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions. Today's episode has been sponsored by the Changemaker Circles. We really have a Changemaker Circle, don't we? Every week after our episode at 12:30 Eastern Time, every Friday, we have a Changemaker Circle that meets after our main event. When I'm lucky enough to have a changemaker with me that I've interviewed, then if at all possible, that person will be with us to facilitate the conversation in our little mini changemaker circle. If you can't get enough there, or if you're unable to show up at 12:30 for our after conversation each week, I want to remind you that I offer changemaker circles on a bi-monthly basis. So twice per month, you can join a formal changemaker circle that will help you to set goals in your own changemaker's journey and create a community around you that helps you to feel courageous and capable so that you stick to those goals and show up and make the changes you want to see in the world. By starting a movement, by joining a movement, by writing a book like Tammy's doing, or creating some other initiative that has the possibility of bringing your own special gifts to the world so they can ripple out and make a difference. That's what we're all about at Blue Roads Education, celebrating, supporting, and cultivating changemakers. I hope you'll join the changemakers journey. And your first step always is going to my website at blueroadseducation.org and downloading your copy of the ebook, Changemaker You, How to Change the World on Your Own Terms. It's a first step that reviews the 16 attributes that all changemakers have in common. And after you finish the book, I hope you'll decide that you'd like even more and you'd like the opportunity to apply those skills to yourself. And that's what the course Changemaker You is all about. So go to blueroadseducation.org, check out all that we're doing, and download your ebook as a first step. And I hope I'll see you in a Changemaker Circle very soon. In the meantime, may you be grounded in your beingness, guided in your doingness, generous in your connectedness, and inspired in your reflectiveness, so you can change the world on your own terms. I'm Patty Talbot. I'm always learning. And I'll bet you are too.